This podcast contains paid advertisements, but more on that later. Welcome to the O'Connor Bootstrap Podcast, where I discuss how you can grow your business by the bootstraps. This applies to all entrepreneurs, from the person just starting up to the one that is already well established. My goal is to help you grow. I am your host, Isaiah O'Connor. Okay, so today we're going to start off with our sponsor, which is Lonely Planet. What is Lonely Planet? Lonely Planet is a publisher of travel guides. And they do travel tips, and they even have some language guides that you can download apps to learn language in the country you're going to. There's some really funny ones on there too. One of which was, I think, in Thailand. Their app had the translation and spoken. You could click on the translation and it'll speak it for you, the sentence. And the sentence was, "That marijuana is not mine." Or that those drugs are not mine, or something along those lines. Quite funny, but hopefully useful, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, I like Lonely Planet. I've used their travel guides. I've used their language guides. They're very nice to have. Right now they have a sale, buy two, get one free. And as the world is slowly coming back online, this is the time to kind of look around and plan your next trips for business or pleasure, because we all need to relax. It's one thing that's hard for an entrepreneur to do, is stop and relax. Needed, but often forgotten. But anyway, for business or for pleasure, check out lonelyplanet.com. Links in the description below. Please, if you use our link, it does help us out. Thank you very much. Now let's get into this. So today's subject is also brought to you by the guy I met the other day. Really cool guy named Lee Biles. Well, kind of indirectly. Somebody was struggling with something, and he said, "Hey, have you tried the 5 whys?" And he provided a link to what the 5 whys are. And I thought it was brilliant, because I've used a version of the 5 whys very, very often. I just never quite realized that it had a name. It's amazing how sometimes you'll do something that works for a long time, and you might have your own little pet name for what you do, or not even know what it's called. You just do it and it works, and you find out there's a name for it. So what are the 5 whys? Let's jump over to Wikipedia and just say what it says at the beginning here. I'm not going to read the whole article, but let's start with the first couple paragraphs. So, from Wikipedia, 5 whys is an iterative, interrogative technique used to explore cause and effect relationships underlying a particular problem. The primary goal of the technique is to determine the root cause of a defect or problem by repeating the question, why? Each answer forms the basis of the next question. The 5 in the name derives from an anecdotal observation on the number of iterations needed to resolve the problem. Not all problems have a single root cause. If one wishes to uncover multiple root causes, the method must be repeated, asking a different sequence of questions each time. The method provides no hard and fast rules about what lines of questions to explore or how long to continue the search for additional root causes. Thus, even when the method is closely followed, the outcome still depends upon the knowledge and persistence of the people involved. Now, I'll just read their example and then I'll expound a little bit. The problem is the vehicle will not start. Why? The battery is dead. But why is the battery dead? The alternator is not functioning. Why? The alternator belt has broken. Why? The alternator belt was well beyond its useful service life and not replaced. Why? The vehicle was not maintained according to the recommended service schedule. So that's 5 whys, and the last one was the root cause. And you can keep going from there. Why was it not maintained? Because it was in an old garage. Why was it in a... You can keep going on and on and on and on forever, probably. Now, I didn't know that there was this sort of actual technique involved with troubleshooting. This is a troubleshooting technique. And the actual technique was developed by Sakachi Toyota. If it sounds familiar, it's because it's the Toyota guy. The guy who was working with the Toyota Motor Corporation. He came up with this and a few other systems that I will probably be talking about in the future. And it's an analysis. You look at it, troubleshooting, you have a problem. Well, why did this happen? Well, why did that happen? Now, I've tended to start doing this. I apply this a lot with your kids. You do this a lot when you have kids. Why did you do this? Why is there juice on the floor? I spilled it. Well, why did you spill it? Because I was running. Well, why were you running? Because I was chasing my brother. Why were you chasing my brother? Because I wanted to. Why did you want to? I was mad. But why were you mad? You get the point. You do this a lot intuitively when you have kids. But as intuitive it might seem, oftentimes intuitive things are not things you have to think about. And you have to sometimes take your intuition, realize that that works, and apply it to other places. So, for example, my business, the balloons keep popping when I put them on. Why? Because they're too full of air. Well, that's a simple one, a short one. Let's go further. Why? Because the pole I'm putting them on is not smooth. Why? The pole I'm putting it on isn't smooth because I've wrapped LED lights on it. Well, why are they not smooth? Because I purchased the regular LED lights that have sharp corners. Why did I purchase that? Because I didn't know the waterproof ones that didn't have sharp corners existed. Follow that in, find the waterproof ones, and now you have the root of your problem. This is a true story. This really happened. I used the waterproof LEDs and no problem, easily wrapped the balloons on with no problems, no popping, and was able to fix the problem. That was a pretty simple one. But you can tackle a lot of different problems that way. What is the problem? Why? Why does this happen? Well, what caused that? Cause and effect. What caused that? Well, why did this happen? This is a very effective technique. I've used it a lot. When I worked in an arcade, fixing the machines, the machine ate my quarter. Well, why? Let's go take a look. Well, there's a quarter jam. Easy. Oh, no, there's no quarter jam. Well, why? Then why, if there's a quarter jam, why did it quarter jam? There's a piece of paper shoved in there. Aha. And so on, so forth. Asking questions, why, until you sound like a little kid sometimes. But why, daddy, why, daddy, why, daddy? But it's so effective. And it's usually about 4 or 5 before you can get to the root cause and then fix the problem. So when you're struggling with something, why is this not working? Sometimes it's stop, well, why isn't this working? And break it down and try to find the not the pattern, but find the series of events that have led to your problem. Back it up. Find the root cause, find the main cause, and deal with that. And there's another good point there. You know the old saying, you shouldn't put a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. Kind of the same thing. Sometimes you can see, well, the balloon popped. Back to my thing. Why did the balloon pop? Well, maybe it's the balloon's fault. Let's just put the balloon back on carefully and it was just a bad balloon. No, it popped again. So that didn't work. Wrong thing. I was trying to fix a different problem. Put less air in the balloon. Okay, now it works. Well, putting less air in the balloon might work in that situation, but it won't look as good. Uh, you need more balloons. It takes longer. And it's still fragile and still might pop because I wasn't taking the why further. Why is the balloon popping? Well, let's look at all the reasons. Let's dig down. Let's go deep. Try to look and find the really root cause. Maybe that wasn't the best example, but you get the idea. Sometimes you stop short of the root cause and you need to keep asking until you find the really root core of the problem. And I think if you can use this in your relationships, my wife is mad at me. Why? Because I left the milk out. But why is she mad at you that you left the milk out? Because the milk went in the bag. But why is she mad at you? Because the milk was left out because I forgot to put it away. Why is she mad at you? Because you forgot to put it away? Because I've done that many times before. Well, why is she mad at you that you've done it many times before? Because she's asked me not to do that. Well, why does she feel that way? Because maybe she feels that I don't respect her when I don't leave the milk out because I don't listen to her and then I leave the milk out. Now, this has not happened with me and my wife, but you see the pattern where you can even use this with a relationship thing. Or, why don't I have any money right now? Well, because you're broke. Well, duh. Well, why are you broke? Because I spent all my money. Well, why did you spend all my money? Because I didn't have a plan on where to put the money. Or I didn't have an emergency fund. Or you can use this to troubleshoot multiple problems in your life. Matter of fact, probably all of them. So you just start asking why. And by the way, it can be a great sales technique as well. So you can ask people, well, why do you want this? Okay. And you want this way because this? You don't just say why. You don't want to sound like a little kid. But you can go, so, and why is this a problem? Okay, yeah. Let's fix it. And then you can work your way to find the real core root of what your customer wants and work from there. You can explore things. Use this to dig deep. Anyway, it's a little bit of the Socratic message. You can dig and get people to think and help people by asking questions like why. Why do you think this? How do you think this is? It's a great technique to solve all sorts of problems. And again, this is one of those things that digging down into it, they've got the fishbone diagram, which is a way to do it. You can use a table. Then I went through and saw the Lean, Six Sigma, another type of diagram for streamlining your business, for doing all this stuff. This led to quite the rabbit hole of business topics, of which I will try to eventually get to. Business is such a rich well to get ideas from to talk about on podcasts. There's so much out there. There's so many detailed things. There's so many ideas. There's so many techniques. There's so many techniques to do business, to solve problems. It's amazing. Part of the reason I like business is there's so much to it. It's just not, sitting in the factory and repeating the same action over and over again. If you do that, great. Not knocking that job. It's an important job. But for me, I would go absolutely insane. So I like learning new things, and there's always something new to learn about business. Anyway, you guys, go out there, have fun, fix the problems, and have a great day. Bye. Remember to get your free half-hour consultation by using our contact page and the links below. If you found value in this content, please give us a 5-star rating on whichever podcast platform you use. It is very helpful if you share this with your friends. If you'd like to directly support this podcast, I have a few donation links in the description, or you can check out the show sponsors. You have been listening to the O'Connor Bootstrap podcast, which is an Atheoz Business Solutions podcast. Our companion podcast, the Atheoz Business Podcast, which is hosted by Jason St. Clair. Our past episodes and related blogs, you can check out our website at www.atheoz.com, which is www.atheoz.com. Atheoz.com or Atheoz.com. Remember, you can also check us out on the O'Connor Bootstrap podcast Facebook group, where you can interact with me and other people who are bootstrappers and entrepreneurs. The link is in the description. Come check us out. I would love to interact with you. And until next time, I'm your friendly neighborhood entrepreneur, Isaiah O'Connor. See you later.